So hello everyone, welcome back. My name is Yingying Su, and today I will be presenting my research work, Specific and Cumulative Lifetime Stressors and Major Depression, a longitudinal community-based population study. My presentation will be shorter, so hopefully I will save some time for you guys for questions, not only for me, but for all the excellent presenters. So the study will be introduced in a manuscript-like format. I will start with the introduction, followed by the methods and results, then the strengths and limitations. Finally, I will conclude which direction that I'm going right now. So firstly, I'm going to give a brief description on the lifetime stressors. Lifetime stressors refer to different types of early and later on stressors that a person can come across over the lifespan. So they can cause different consequences for not only the physical health as well as the mental health. Based on the life course perspective and stress process theory, early life stress, which is defined as the exposure to events that happen in the early life and exceed the child's coping resources, for example, the childhood maltreatment, can predict the depression trajectories. Additionally, stress experiences during the later life, for example, the breakup, the job losses, etc., is also associated with greater mental health problems. So in the chains of the risk model, stressful events may co-occur, and the exposure to multiple stressors may reflect intercorrelated patterns, since those stressors tend to occur in the clusters rather than just as single events or the experiences. However, no study has been published to explore the life course perspective of different patterns and cumulative effect of stress in subsequent depression. In addition, a paucity of research has taken the genetic factors into account when examining those associations. Thus, a comprehensive examination of the biopsychosocial factors can provide us a better understanding of the pathology of depression. Building on the life course perspective and the biopsychosocial model, our study aims to first examine the individual roles of specific lifetime stressors, including childhood maltreatment, parental bonding, and stressful life events in the depression development. Second, the cumulative effects of different lifetime stressors on the depression were also tested. We also explore whether different latent profiles or classes of those stressors that we identified were associated with depression, when the genetic predispositions and other demographic characteristics were taken into consideration. We now know that our study uses ZEPSOM data. I'm going to save some time for this part because it has been well introduced by the presenters already. So for our current study, 1,351 participants who have completed 5 waves of the data collection with completed measurements were included. So next, I will provide a detailed description on what those variables were and how they were measured specifically. So the early life stressors include childhood maltreatment and parental bonding. Childhood maltreatment was assessed using the CTQ-28. It assessed 5 aspects of childhood abuse and neglect, including physical abuse and neglect, emotional abuse and neglect, and sexual abuse. Parental bonding was assessed by PBI, which is a 50-item questionnaire designed to measure the perceptions of parental behaviors. And the later on stressor was assessed by the life events questionnaire. It includes 22 life events, which could be grouped into 5 major themes, including work and financial issues, romantic relationships, family and friend relationships, housing, and experiences of aggregation. So our outcome, major depression, was assessed based on modified WHO CIDI using the definitions and criteria of DSM-4 and ICD-10. On top of that, in order to reveal the real association between those psychosocial stressors and depression, a bunch of the covariates were considered, including the genetic factors, polygenetic risk score, demographic factors, including the age, sex, marital status, race, education, and income, and health-related characteristics, such as type of the drinkers, or self-perceived mental health, and family history of mental disorders, which is based on a whole or big picture of the biopsychosocial model. After assessing those psychosocial stressors, 3 approaches were used to quantify their impacts. First, they were treated as separate events. Second, a composite score of cumulative stress index was created by combining 3 stress domains that are childhood maltreatment, parental bonding, and stressful life events. Last, latent profile analysis was conducted by grouping them into mutual mutually exclusive groups. Maximum likelihood estimation procedure was used, calculating via 1,000 bootstrap. Next, to determine the relationship between stressors and depression, multivariate logistic regression was used while controlling for a set of covariates that we just mentioned before. Lastly, to test the robustness of the research findings, the complete case analysis was conducted as a sensitivity analysis. It is used to assess to what extent the missing values would influence the result findings. Complete case analysis means that we only include those participants without any missing values of the measurements of the interest. So generally, the descriptive statistic and regression analysis were conducted in STATA, and the latent profile analysis was conducted in M+. So we will together take a look on the result finding that we got. For the study sample, generally 2/3 are females, almost half are single, and majority of them are white and with a higher level of education. In addition, compared to female counterparts, male participants are more likely to report that they are regular drinkers and having excellent or good self-pursuit mental health. And this table provides the fit indices of the profile models, starting from the most parsimonious one profile model. We could see that since 3 profile model had the highest entropy value and lowest AIC, BXE, etc. Therefore, we choose the 3 profile model as the best fitting parsimonious model. That means 3 profiles or classes were identified in the latent profile analysis. And figure 2 provides a very straightforward visual illustrations of the mean scores for all of the lifetime stressors, that among the 3 identified stressor profiles. As shown, profile 1 was the most prevalent profile, which was marked as blue. Participants in this profile reported a low level of stress across their lifespan, so they were labeled as low stress. And profile 2 and 3, which were marked as red and green respectively, are defined as moderate stress and high stress group. The last table presents the results on the association between psychosocial stress measures and depression, that are individual psychosocial stress, cumulative psychostress, and derived psychosocial stress clusters. For the specific stressors, we found that people with emotional abuse, neglect, or experience of lack of parental care or having the stress related to family-friend relationships are more likely to report depression. For the cumulative stress measurement, when controlling for the genetic or social demographic as well as the health-related characteristics, the cumulative lifetime stress index was a significant risk factor for the subsequent depression. In addition, for the stress patterns, the associations between the derived stress groups and the depression were also found to be significant. Also, the results of the complete case analysis reinforce the findings in the whole sample with the 3 profile model. It illustrates a dose-response relationship between the lifetime stressors and the increased risk of subsequent depression, but the results were not shown in the table. Based on what we found in those tables and figures, 3 points will be used for briefly summarizing the result findings. After accounting for the genetic risk factors and other demographic characteristics, we found significant individual effects of different domains of childhood maltreatment, parental bonding, and stressful life events on the subsequent depression. Furthermore, a significant association between the combined effects of the cumulative stress and depression was also found. In addition, 3 latent profiles were identified in the present study, that are low stress, moderate stress, and high stress. Profile membership predicts poor mental health with differences found for specific stressors combination. In general, the higher stress profile had the highest risk of depression than the other 2 profiles after adjusting for the potential confounders. But unfortunately, there is no perfect study. So several limitations should be acknowledged in the present study. First, stressors were self-reported, so measurements of the stressors are subject to the information bias. Second, we found that the reliability of the stressful life events was pretty low, so future research with the improved internal consistency of this assessment is needed. Third, it is understandable that stressor has multiple aspects, including the frequency, duration, and severity. However, we didn't have information on that aspect. Besides those limitations, our study is the first to examine and compare how different measures of lifetime stressors, including specific stressors, cumulative stress index, and stressor clusters are associated with the subsequent depression. While we are using a longitudinal community-based cohort, and a wide range of the biopsychosocial covariates were considered when we are examining those associations. So this is kind of take-home message. Individual and cumulative lifetime psychosocial stressors are found to be associated with the subsequent depression. Thus, from a prevention perspective, mental health promotion could be achieved by early identification of the stressors and reducing those stressful exposures across life course. Health professions should also target specific patterns or compositions of those stressors and focus on minimizing the negative consequences of the stressors or reducing the onset of the stressors and providing necessary support for those with different kinds of the lifetime stressors to help them to better cope with the stressful experiences. So I would like to make an acknowledgement here. This research was supported by the Canadian Institute of Health Research and the Canada First Research Excellence Fund provided to McGill University for Healthy Brains for Healthy Lives. And there are so many people who have been involved and contribute to this work. So I would like to thank my project team, Dr. Meng, my supervisor, Dr. Darcy, Dr. Lee, Dr. Donna, Dr. Karen, and Dr. Millie. Thank you very much for their contribution and their input.